Hello, everyone, and welcome to our day early comic review show. I'm Jason,
I'm Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, where every Monday after the comics have been delivered to our shop and we're done bagging and boarding them, Andy and I, we divide up the comics. We read the ones we've really been looking forward to. We read all the issue number ones, and we do this spoiler light show where we're going to tell you all about what major first appearances to look for. But more than that, we're going to describe what these books are about in more detail. So when you go in your shop and there's 20 to 30 new books, you better know which ones might be for you.
Yeah.
So I would say this week is emphasized by one book in particular. So Andy, why don't you go ahead?
It's a big book, but it's because it has a very strong central part to it. That is, of course, the long anticipated, much talked about, many variant covered Batman Spawn.
First crossover for them in like nearly like 30 years
Yes.
since the 90s.
Yeah. Boy, have these two characters come a long way from that point. I just read that hardcover they put out that collected the two. I'm
Mm.
like, it's about time to update this team up. These are a little dated. They're a lot of fun, but so uh no introduction needed to our all our cast of characters here. This is written by McFarlane.
Yep, Todd McFarlane.
Todd McFarlane is writing, and the art is done by Greg Capullo. So you have you know, head of the Spawn universe and one of the most iconic Batman artists and Spawn artists.
Yeah,
Now we think of him as Batman, but for years, up
for
until like
ages.
2011, he was the Spawn artist.
Yeah.
But top of their game. I would say, just to begin with, that is the biggest impression from this is Capullo's art. It's nostalgic, but still feels fresh. He once again brings panel layouts that are unique. His storytelling, it's just very non-traditional, but still works. He is about as top as you can get on for a comic book artist. McFarlane's writing is uh, very much like a Spawn book. Even so much reminding me of early Spawn books, where it's narrative driven, as in there's always somebody, a third party talking, whether that be Batman or Spawn, kind of describing what's going on, describing the scene and the feeling and the mood. Very much like kind of those early Spawn issues. Now, what is the story behind this? Because what brings these two together? I think it's funny because they've met three times, and every time they never remember they
They
met.
act like it's the first.
And they act like it's the first, and that's the reason that you can always make them fight. They remembered each other, like, oh hey, we don't get that iconic fight scene between Batman and Spawn. Well, in this, uh, without going, I'm going to try not to do too many spoilers, but it is a one issue, so I kind of got to dodge it. There's not a whole lot of like,
Just a one shot. I assume it's oversized.
yeah, it is oversized at 6.99, but in this, there is one thing that makes Batman and Spawn similar. There's a lot of things, but and for this, there's one major thing, and it's that death has been a instigator in their careers. When Batman is his parents, and with Spawn, it was Wanda. Now, uh, we find out because this is not in. I guess you could say it could be in the Spawn continuity, but this is definitely not in the like main ongoing Batman continuity.
Right.
So uh, there is, of course, the Court of the Owls. I asked Jason before, is that a spoiler? But apparently that was in the solicitation.
Yeah.
So the Court of the Owls is kind of the big bad behind this. And we learn that the Court of the Owls exist in some form in every dimension. So in the Spawn universe, they're the Court of Priests. In Batman, they're the Court of Owls. But they come to Spawn and basically say, we have a way that you can get Wanda back. But to do it, you got to go kill this Batman guy in this other universe. And this also seems like in the Spawn continuity because Scorch is talk about his team. The dead zones, which are the portals between worlds, are brought up because Gotham, of course, has a dead zone in it, a portal to another universe, and that just so happens to be in Crime Alley where his parents were killed.
It's interesting. This is in the Spawn universe. It sounds like more solidly
Yeah,
because this is a DC book.
right. Yeah, yeah. But McFarlane's writing it. He's
Yeah.
like, I got a little bit more control over this area. So there's a lot of things that in this Batman universe they've kind of bent to be more towards linking Batman with Spawn. So I won't give them all away, but there's things about when and where Wanda died and his parents died that starts to bring them. You realize maybe towards you know they're almost opposites in different worlds. A lot happens to this. Of course, you have your with every superhero team up the initial fight, but they also end up teaming up together as well to take down the Court of Owls. They have a new Talon that is their spearhead in this. The other thing I thought was really interesting is this does seem to have a rough time frame it takes place in the Batman side of it because we have the Court of Owls, which that could be because Capullo is the artist and he was the artist on the Court of Owls.
Yep.
Also, we see another very familiar Batman villain who maybe at one point removed his own face or had his face removed. I mean, I'm not going to say who it is, but if you know the New 52 era, you know that's how Detective Comics started out. So it's kind of like, oh, maybe this takes place around New 52 Batman era in this. But the other thing I'll say, I have a lot of notes on this, but without just giving everything away, I want people to read this and enjoy it. It does set up a sequel. There is, and it's not just like a final page. There is a couple of things throughout it that you realize, oh, you see things you're like, I don't think they're touching on that in this issue, but I think that's a thing they're going to come back around. Things said, characters that are shown in the shadows, all of that, and then it's kind of confirmed in the last page that we're going to get more of these two crossing over. So I feel like I should say so much more about this, but I don't want to spoil it and I think everyone should read it. I think everyone will read it because this is one of the biggest books coming out this year. The other thing I'll say, there is uh, the first appearances in this are uh, a new Talon, and there is, even though it's not really a character, there is a form of Spawn that is a Batman Spawn, which I think is prime real estate for action figures. Considering that McFarlane is making DC toys and Spawn toys, I think he said, "I got one. I
He,
guess
he,
I
he
can make."
probably had the action figure design before he even wrote the story.
Yeah, he's like, "Where do I fit this in?" There's a lot of other fun things about even Arkham Asylum, how that ties in with the Spawn universe, just so much. But I feel like the biggest point to take away from this is the art is incredible, and it's just a overall fun action filled book that doesn't rely on Eater's continuity too heavily. So this is good for all readers if you're just vaguely familiar with the characters of Batman and Spawn. So
And obviously no variants for
no variants whatsoever.
it.
Wow, that's amazing. They really held back. Oh wait, what is this giant stack I have over here? Okay, we've got some variants after all. So our A cover is Batman standing over Spawn.
It looks kind of defeated.
Yeah, you can pick your victor, or you can have Spawn standing over Batman, both done by Capullo. Very cool. We have A. This one was a late edition. I remember this one wasn't ready back when orders were placed. So this is the McFarlane, one of the McFarlane covers. We have the I believe that's yeah, this is the Jimenez. This is the acetate. You can kind of see the
It's all shimmery.
yeah, the clear folds back that has Spawn on it, and Batman is on the back. Very cool one there. I think that one may be like $1 more because of that.
The material
Yep.
it's made of.
We have a blank cover, but they've started to do that thing where they give a little texture to the blank
Yeah.
covers. I feel like this is a good one to take around to
It
cons.
almost looks like a black and white explosion.
Yeah, or I was thinking like a tombstone or something.
I think they're more going for what you're saying.
Black and white explosion.
I mean, it's McFarlane.
Yeah,
Chains, explosions.
really close up on the chain. We have the Jim Lee variant. He could not have one in this. We have the J. Scott Campbell. Super cool. We have, I believe this is the Matina. Yep, here is the Matina. I wonder if is there any artist that said no when they said, "Do you want to do a Batman Spawn cover?" Probably not. We have the Sean Murphy, which is very cool. Almost looks like the Sean Murphy Black and White universe Spawn crossover, or
The Batman White Knight.
White Knight
Yeah.
universe crossover. Yep. Then we have, I believe this one is also, yeah, this is the glow in the dark Pupulo McFarlane cover, so that green will glow in the dark. Still got a couple more. We've got, this is the Velato variant.
This is why we do the show.
Yeah.
It gives everybody time to decide what they want when they go in their store and not get overwhelmed in the avalanche
Then we
of
have
cool variants.
a 1 in 25 Jason Fabok variant that we are selling to our customers for $20. And then we have a 1 in 50 Brett Booth variant that we're selling to our customers for $25.
Well, that's cool that they set this up for a sequel. And maybe in the sequel there'll be other DC characters involved, and that would
Yeah.
almost be like all these variants that not the ones you just showed, but the Spawn variants where he's with other DC characters.
Yeah.
That could almost be like a precursor to
Yeah,
that.
there's
Maybe
definitely
he
a
will
hint
be
towards
hanging out
that.
with Harley. Maybe he will be,
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, and so that's really exciting.
It is interesting. One little thing. There's one point where Spawn shows Batman his face, and he has the stitches on his face that he got from his previous encounter with Batman, where Batman threw the Batarang into it.
Batarang.
It's like, you don't remember this guy? Like, you literally have a wound where you met him.
I mean, he did get hit in the head.
That's true.
There's head
Wiped his
injuries.
memory.
Okay, so let's start with an indie book too, funny enough. So I'm gonna review Nightclub #1. This is the new book from writer Mark Miller with art by Juanan Ramirez. Now, the first thing you might want to notice is look at that price.
Yeah.
$1.99. And Miller has promised that this ongoing series, I think it's ongoing, is gonna remain $1.99 going forward. He wanted to show you can, comic prices don't have to keep going up.
That's a bold move.
So we will see. So I read it. If you like Miller's stuff, I think you're going to like it. You'll like it even more if you like vampires. I find that some people, vampires are really cool. Some people, they're a little burnt out on them.
Yeah.
So the premise of this is neat, though. One thing I like about Miller's writing is he tells stories very quickly. He cuts through the fat and gets right to it. So this is about some kids, a group of kids, and the main one, his name is Danny. He has a YouTube channel, and he's trying to make money on it. So he's trying to do a private channel where him and his friends will do dangerous things, and people will subscribe to see these dangerous things. He'll make money. Well, he gets injured. You'll have to read to see what he does. It gets him very injured, and when he's in the hospital, it turns out that the hospital is linked in with vampires. I've long suspected this. This is why I try really hard not to get sick. Anyway, I mean, perfect place for vampires to hang out, and it's where they create new vampires. Well, Danny is going to get turned into a vampire. He has a new vampire master. Much of this issue, so that happens in the first few pages.
Wow.
Much of this issue is exploring what can vampires do in this world. That to me is always one of my favorite parts of any telling of a vampire story. How many powers do they have? What I'll say is this is a power heavy vampire world. I mean, we're talking can do all kinds of the things that you've heard, which I'm not surprised. Miller likes to have a lot of fun with superpowers. So anyway, this kid has learned he has all these powers. He has a vampire master, but guess what? He's still going to go forward with his YouTube plan. He's just going to do it now that he has powers, and maybe a little more anonymously. So you can even see on the cover.
Does he show up on the screen?
Looks sort of like a luchador mask. Yes, he
Okay,
will
see,
show up
that-
on the screen.
That would be
That'd be a real problem. So anyhow, that is the premise for Nightclub. If that sounds like your cup of tea, you're gonna like it. I think the art is represented really well on the cover. That's basically the way the interior art looks like. So we have a few variants for this. There is a black and white variant by Ramirez, who of course is also your interior artist. There is this Pulo
Very
variant.
cool. Also, all the variants are $1.99.
Yep, everything's $1.99 for this book. I don't know if we didn't get an incentive. I'm
I
not
don't
sure if
even
there
know.
was
I
one.
don't think there was an
And
incentive.
then here is the Spawn variant for this one, which is also done by Ramirez.
What a great idea! Even if you did a series and issue 2 and 3, whatever, were more, what a great get somebody
To launch
hooked
it
to launch
cheap.
it.
I agree.
I think that's
Yeah.
really really smart. Okay, so my next one, just a warning that uh, we don't have the A cover for it.
Okay.
It was they didn't ship us that one. They will be. We've went through the proper channels to get them, but so that's why I'm just showing you this one to begin with,
That's the Zerdy variant, I
the
believe.
Zerdy variant, and what a way to catch an eye with a cover like that. So this is Dark Crisis Big Bang #1. I'm going from one kind of DC thing to another DC thing, but so this is a one shot that ties in with the Dark Crisis event somewhat. I would say it more ties in with what's to come in the DC universe, which I think is why this is noteworthy. Now, this is written by Mark Waid, and art is done by a variety of artists. And this is a really fast, no pun intended, because Flash is the main person in it, fast and light, fun issue. Almost like you're reading, once again, Mark Waid does as well, almost like a 70s, 60s or 70s superhero story, but that still feels modern. So I think that me by saying that it's very hopeful and like bright. Uh, so in this, Flash is talking to Wallace West, the younger, newer uh, kid Flash, and he's basically saying, "Hey, I've been through all these crises, and the thing that always happens is the anti-monitor is there. And if you remember back in Crisis on Infinite Earths, uh, basically Flash beat him, but it cost him his life. And he's like, we just had a crisis, and I think the dude's out there. I don't know where. We now have an infinite multiverse, and we can't fight him, but we can do reconnaissance and try to see where he is to kind of try and map it out so we can bring a heavier force and go take him out. So, what this is Flash running through the multiverses and with little comments kind of about each of them, looking for the anti-monitor. So in that way, you get to see all of the new worlds that are in this universe. So we're seeing stuff like the Jurassic League world where they're all dinosaurs. We see how that fits in. We're seeing Batman 1966 is one of the worlds in here. So we got Adam West Batman and Joker. We have um, stuff that we haven't seen before. I believe there's some worlds that uh, like an old west world and things like that. Plus ones that are you're more familiar with, like if you read the Multiversity series. So I'm not sure if this is like there's some first appearances in it. Kind of hard to tell depending on this appear way back in 1980 whatever. Um, but there is a story to this because they do run into the anti-monitor on one of the worlds as he's wreaking havoc. And one of the things I'll say is Flash does what he says is the mightiest punch in the multiverse. And it's just fun. It reminds you of something you would have read in one of those old books. Uh, and this all kind of culminates with something that's really fun that brings a lot of the multiverses together as as a bunch of people team up to take him down. Really fun. It kind of says, to be continued and a bunch of stuff next year. But the other thing is, at the end of it, there is a page from Barry's notebook. And in it, he has listed uh, all the multiverses because there's an infinite amount now, but he is listed kind of the number he went through. And what's cool for us is it says the number and then it says under it what comic was its first appearance. So that's pretty cool because you even have like the Michael Keaton Batman 89, all that in there. The only thing I'll say is I was looking forward to like, oh, how is Mark Waid gonna write Batman 89? It is literally just like a panel they run through. It's not like a story or anything like that. But I do highly recommend this one. I think it is a lot of fun. And if you've liked Mark Waid's writing at DC recently, this is another one you'll love. You'll love the tone of it. And just a fun one shot talking about things to come. We also have the variant for it. I believe this variant is what the A cover looks like, but this is just like the foil version of it. So this is the Janin 1 in 25 foil variant that we are selling for $25. But that's kind of what the A cover looks like.
All right, so Invincible Iron Man has a brand new series with a new #1. This is written by Jerry Dugan with art by Juan Frigeri. And so I read a lot about what this was going to be about before it came out. You know, the last series I read the whole thing. Christopher Cantwell did
Yeah.
really good Iron Man. So Jerry Dugan wanted to go a different direction. This is a darker series. It's supposed to be Tony Stark at a really sort of bad place in his life. He narrates the first half of it. It sort of goes over his life, but and we know Iron Man's history, but this is his own thoughts on his life, his father, you know, all that stuff. And he kind of says he wants to tell us his life story. I think that narration is going to continue in later issues. But what this is about is there is a freak accident that Tony really believes it is not his technology that did it, but something really bad happens. And even though he has a certain superhero for a lawyer, he just kind of rolls over. Like it seems like Tony's kind of given up. You know, he doesn't even want to fight it or anything. Well, Tony does start figuring out that somebody is trying to ruin his reputation, ruin his life. He doesn't know who exactly, but that is sort of the crux of this story is him trying to figure out who's trying to ruin his life and doing a really good job at it. So Jerry Dugan, it's funny. He does a lot of humor in his stuff, but there is not humor in this. This is a very serious story, a real sort of dark Iron Man story of can Tony pick himself up, and what is he going through? Like, why is he such a lonely individual? So if you're looking for an Iron Man series, it's a little more of that speed. This is the one. So no Hellcat appearance in this, no Hellcat romance. That was all the last series. This is really a deep dive into the psyche of a sort of messed up genius. So who has been around forever yet doesn't really feel like he has real close friends.
Yeah.
So that's generally what Invincible Iron Man #1 is about. And we have some variants, of course. We've got the Vecchio variant. We have the Cicetto variant. This one's really cool. This is the Shalvey Extreme variant. I remember when we showed this on Comics from the Future.
Yeah.
It looks even better in person. Here is the Howe variant with Riri Williams on it. She is also in this issue.
Okay, I was about to ask because I know future issues she's been on the covers and everything.
Yeah. And check this one out, the Leighton variant. So they're doing a whole series of these that are connecting. You can kind of see starting to draw other suits on the edge there. Where I think if you get them all, you'll get all the major Iron Man suits. I don't know how many issues it's going to take to show them all. So, and then lastly, there is a 1 in 25 Laraz variant. We are selling for $25.
Okay, next up for me is not a new #1, but we like to, as you say at the beginning, feature books that we enjoyed and all of that. This one I thoroughly enjoyed, and I definitely wanted to talk about this. It's Amazing Spider-Man #15. This is our first Amazing Spider-Man issue going into Dark Web, and one of the main reasons I really liked it was Ed McGuinness does the art in it. And I love Ed McGuinness. He's been around forever doing so many good things, and still he has panels and pages that I'm just like that's just awesome. Because as you can see on the cover, Spider-Man and Venom. So in this, this is leading. This is kind of the early stages of the Dark Web story, where we know that Chasm and Goblin Queen are upset about how they've been treated and are going to get revenge, and they've started to turn stuff in New York City into demons. I'm not exactly sure how that's working, but like very like common items like mailboxes and stuff now suddenly have like big gnashing teeth. And this begins with a mother strolling her baby, and the stroller turns into a monster and is like, "I promise I'm not going to eat the baby." Just kidding, and stuff like that. But who shows up to stop it? It's Venom. And if you've read Dark Web, the thing about Venom in this, he has agreed to work with Chasm and Goblin Queen uh, for help finding his son.
Right.
But at that, the cost is he has been reverted back to more of the classic Venom, who all he wants is to eat Spider-Man's brains. And it's really funny. He actually does save the baby. And they're like, "You're not going to eat him, are you, or whatever?" And he goes, "No." And then he gives the baby a big old kiss on the head. Venom gives it, and he's like, "But Spider-Man, I'm going to eat that guy's brains." So it is really fun getting one McGinnis drawing Venom, just big burly Venom. Also getting that like it's been a long time since we had that like Venom Spider-Man uh, antagonist situation, the monster versus Spider-Man. And then we go to Spider-Man, who is finally runs into Chasm, and he doesn't know about Chasm. He knows when he gets there it's Ben Riley, and he's like, "Great to see you. I thought you died. All this stuff." And Chasm goes, "Yeah, you didn't know. You don't actually know what's going on, do you? I'm coming after you." So I love this issue. It is a setup issue for what's to come with the whole dark web stuff. But Spider-Man is quippy. The action, there's a ton of action over the top in this. There's fights between multiple people and things, but we do get kind of a case with Spider-Man and Venom. It just felt like a really solid classic Spider-Man issue, and usually, sometimes you don't always get those with event books. Sometimes they're trying to tell their story really hard, and by doing so, they can't do a lot of the more fun fights and all that. So I really like this issue. That's just kind of mainly what I wanted to talk about it. Great art, action packed, all around, just a good issue. And it said before in the dark web, the back of the dark web #1, if you wanted to follow the Goblin Queen, the X-Men story, there's a path for that. And this is you want to follow Chasm and Spider-Man and Venom, you read this, and I think that's really cool. So if you don't want to collect everything, but you've been reading Spider-Man, I think you're going to enjoy this just as much without reading all of the tie-ins. So we've got some variants for this as well that are also really cool. We have the McGinnis, which is a great action cover. And we have the LaRocca. This is a connecting variant, and I'll show one in a little bit that connects with it. And then we have this really nice 1 in 10 McGinnis variant. Very, almost looks like a movie poster.
Yeah, I see that.
I think the black bar really does that. We're selling to our customers for $8.
All right. So, do you like Tom King? Because he has a new comic out called Danger Street. So this is by Tom King with art by Joris Fornes. And this is a DC Black Label book. It is going to be 12 issues, so it's a maxi series. And this is set not in like the DC universe proper. You can kind of tell it's just sort of like their version of it, which is close because you have a Justice League. We don't really meet them in this, but King does the thing that he likes to do, which is he takes lesser known characters and he digs in deep.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to tell his story with characters that haven't been discussed much, or at least lately. So, for instance, you have Lady Cop in this,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of see how she might be called Lady Cop, even though
It's a really
it
not a
seems
good
very
thing.
disrespectful. Yeah, it's mostly a group of kids called her
Yeah.
that, though. But Lady Cop's in it. You also have Creeper. The main sort of players in this is Metamorpho, Doctor Fate, and Starman,
Warlord.
and Warlord, rather. Yes. Um,
Because they all came from the DC first, right?
they're all from the DC first comic way back
Yeah.
from like the 70s, where each issue was like a first
Mm-hmm.
issue and a lot of first appearances. So in this issue, you have the three of them: Starman, Warlord, and Metamorpho. They are trying to join the Justice League, and to be able to do this, they are going to try to summon Darkseid defeat him and show the Justice League, hey, we're worthy. Um, but what happens? I can't spoil it. Do they summon Darkseid? They summon someone,
Oh.
but is it who they want? And then, secondly, there is a terrible accident that happens. I mean, something really, really bad. Like if you think, what's a terrible thing that would weigh on your conscience? Something happens that is surely going to affect the next 11 issues of this. So past that, there's also like a group of kids that you get introduced to. This is definitely a Tom King setup issue where it's like you got Lady Cop doing her thing, you got Creeper doing his thing, you have this group of kids who all have these weird nicknames. They're mostly food based, doing their thing, and you can see how the stories start to collide,
Mhm.
and you see how it's all going to mix together. But true to Tom King, there is a lot of dialogue, a lot of writing in general, a lot of Watchmen style 9 panel
Mhm.
pages. So this is sort of thing where once again, I said right at the beginning, if you like Tom King, you're gonna like it. If you don't like Tom King, you may be like, why are these? Is he going so far into these characters I don't really know? And it's not like really explaining them. He's just like acting like we should know all their stuff, and that it's more important for them to talk about like their bathroom habits than it is for them to do superheroing. That's some of Tom King's charm. It's for some people, it's not for
Yeah,
others.
yeah.
So
So
that's
this won't change your mind one way or another
no,
of your feelings of Tom King.
I don't think so. Not at least the first issue.
Mhm.
So, so that's what's going on in Danger Street issue number 1. Here we have the variant.
It's a great cover.
This is the Steve Root variant with Warlord on the cover. And then here is the 1 in 25 weeks variant we're selling to our customers for 25 bucks. And there's our 3 characters who very smartly tried to summon Darkseid.
I remember going to an antique store when I was young and found DC First Warlord, and I thought I struck gold. It's a first issue and stuff. I still have it, but not for value, for nostalgia. Okay, so next up, this is a interesting one. When we gather all our comics, I kind of forgot to grab this one because it's one of the weird sizes. It's a magazine size, and so it ended up being one of the last ones I read. And I started to skim it, and then I was like, I should really read this, and I'm glad I did because I really enjoyed this. This is A Vicious Circle, #1. This is from Boom, and this is done by um, uh, Matson Tomlin and Lee Bermejo. So always great when you get Lee Bermejo doing interior art as well. We've gotten that a couple of times, but it's a rare treat because his art is so
Yeah.
intensive. I can't imagine how long it takes him to do this. So what is this about? Uh, it's interesting. I remember reading the solicit for it, and now I really kind of understand what I was talking about because this is kind of a time travel story. But we meet Sean Thacker, and he is. It seems like it's the '60s, because for one, the art is black and white. Also, just kind of the cars, the people you see on the streets, everything. But it seems like he's got kind of like an ideal, he's got a wife and a kid, and his kid runs into the room when he's sleeping and says, "You promised we'd go fishing today," and all that stuff.
Nuclear family.
Yeah,
Classic
but
nuclear.
it goes real south when the kid's like, "I'll go get the fishing poles. They're in the basement." And the dad's like, "Never go into the basement. That's where the bad man lives," or whatever. And you're like, "Oh, this took a dark turn," because um, he has someone chained up in the basement, and you have a feeling maybe like that's a good thing. Like this guy needs to be there. Uh, so this is all of the first issue. It's really set up. But at some point, the guy down there breaks out and does horrible things to the family, and we learn that uh, this Sean is from the future, and it seems like so is this other guy, and somehow they are linked. We don't know why. We just know they have a connection, and it seems like every time one of them kills somebody, they are flung to a different time, whether the future, the past, whatever. Uh, and it's done really interesting the way it all kind of transpires, but it seems like it's been a like who knows how long this cat and mouse chase has been going on between these two, and they both kind of act like they're on the right side of whatever has transpired in this world. Now, the cool thing is, every time they jump in time, Bermejo changes his art style to fit more of that era and that aesthetic. So, I mean, this is really him flexing on everybody, saying, "Look at all the styles I can do." Because they jump to the far future, and there's a lot of neons, and it's almost very like cyberpunk, that kind of look. But then there's points where they go to like Civil War era, and it looks like old like paintings, like Civil War paintings and everything. And as they're chasing each other, like they're killing people to kind of get out of these situations. So this is a big chase issue, and also a big uh, let's look at all the timelines they're going through. Really cool. The story is, at least for this first issue, simple, because it doesn't bog you down with here's all the backstory, here's everything. You get kind of the rules of the game, but you don't get like why they're doing this, how long they've been doing this, so you can kind of enjoy the ride in this first issue. So usually I'm not a huge fan of like the magazine size books because they're awkward, but with Bermejo's art, this is great. It really showcases it. And I actually think this is a setup of a really cool series that I'm now really invested into to see what's going to become of it. But definitely pick this up, if not only for the art, because you will be amazed at kind of the styles that Vermejo can take on and how well he represents those. So that is a Vicious Circle #1. This is the Vermejo A cover, and we also have this B cover, and this is the unlockable variant.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's very interesting, but I implore people, go to your store, and if they let you flip through the book, I would say give it a shot. I think you'll be hooked from that.
Okay, so before Ice Cream Man, the same team of W. Maxwell Prince and what's Morazzo's first name? Martin Morazzo. Before they did Ice Cream Man, they put out this comic Art Brut. And I think for whatever reason they decided that it didn't get sort of the attention it deserved. So this is a re-release of that comic series. So it was a limited series. I think it was 5 or 6 issues. So this #1 is a re-release of it, but they have improved upon the art and the coloring. So I didn't catch this the first time around. So this was my first read of it, and it's pretty interesting. If you like Ice Cream Man, this is not horror. This is very trippy though. It's very thoughtful. So what if art could affect the world and us even more than it already does?
Mhm.
Art can make you think, it can make you feel. What if it could like make you violently ill? Uh, and we're not just talking about like gross art. Well, anyhow, in this world of art, Brute, someone is changing famous art to where it's winking. Like what if you went and saw the Mona Lisa and the Mona Lisa's winking? Well, not just that, but these art changes are messing with the real world and making people violently ill. Well, this specialized group goes to this person who is known as Art Brute. And what I'll tell you about him, because it's just one issue, you can't find everything about characters in one issue. He seems pretty insane. Okay, this character, it's like, you seem absolutely insane. He's like in an asylum doing art. Well, that is because he's able to jump into the world of art, and in the world of art, he makes sense, and everyone else seems crazy. So,
Very trippy.
yeah, yeah. And so he is basically going to investigate who is doing this. And you do get a hint at who's doing this as well. So if you like their stuff with Ice Cream Man, but you want to see them doing a slightly more serious work, actually, serious is the wrong word because Ice Cream Man's pretty serious as well.
Yeah.
Non-horror is the way to
No.
put it. It's a little more thoughtful because I'm sure they're going to deconstruct to some
Mm.
degree going forward. That is what Art Brute is about. And we got some variants here. This is the Ekman Lawn variant. That has the artist's last name, it has a hyphen, Ekman Lawn. And then here is the Ice Cream Man homage variant.
I like that.
So it's been a while since I've reviewed Ice Cream Man. Ice Cream Man issue number 33 is also out this week. So it was kind of cool. I got to read, their earlier work that they've remastered, and then something that they've been doing for 33 issues. So you got Ice Cream Man on the cover, and you have another character here. So the other character, this story is neat. So it's written as if W. Maxwell Prince is sort of writing it to you. And what he says is, he says he would like to write nice stories. He wants to write positive, nice stories, but they always come out really dark. And so this is two tales. It's all at the same time. It's here's this character and their nice life and situations that they go through that are inspiring. But then, the first half of the page will be that. And then the bottom half is, but here's the story the way it always comes out. And it's dark and it's
Huh.
messed up. So it was a really fun read, really creative. Ice Cream Man is still at the top of their game, and that's who that character down there is. You get to hear his two stories in the world that Prince wishes he could write about, but the world, the dark, much darker world, he
Hmm.
keeps writing about.
That covers an homage to Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
Yeah, that Batman and Robin issue with the
that's
Batmobile
I
behind him.
see that.
Yeah,
Okay, that's cool. And here's the variant for that. This is the Le Monde variant.
so many. Ice Cream Man always has great
It
variants,
really
just
does.
very
It's pretty well known
artistic.
for that. And there is a Spawn variant. Spawn is not the first time he's been on an ice cream truck.
Oh, that's true.
Yep.
I'm surprised that wasn't the mashup.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next one is another Dark Web tie-in. This is Dark Web X-Men #1. It's going to be a three-part mini-series following what the X-Men are doing in this. And this is fun because this is another action-packed issue. You have the X-Men in New York when all of this limbo stuff goes on. You've got Magic, Cyclops, Jean, Iceman, and Forge, who are all big players in this. And most of this issue is them taking on the different stuff that turns into monsters in New York, including the Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center. It's really funny. It does turn into a giant, very creepy, almost like you almost would imagine it in I Hate Fairyland. Just a big mouth, but
I
it's
mean,
a
Christmas trees should be angry. They got chopped down, and we display their bodies.
that actually plays a big part in the Amazing Spider-Man issue.
Mm.
Uh, you'll have to read it, but that's why I love that issue. But this is really fun. I would say if this is a three-part series, this first issue, I wouldn't even say it's setup. Setup was in Dark Web. This is an action issue. Just kind of get you on board, have fun with it, see kind of what all of the X-Men are thinking about this, because we do know they're going to end up in limbo, and that is where this ends up. And I feel like that's where more of the like, what are they going to do in the Dark Web story? How are they going to affect things with the X-Men and everything? But for this, it's just a big fun action one. It's written by Jerry Duggan and art is by Rod Rice. So really cool. And we've got some variants for this as well. This is our next of the connecting variants. This is the La Roca connecting variant with Goblin Queen. We've got this really nice Terry Dodson variant as well.
Okay, so Monica Rambeau has a new series out. It's a mini series. I believe it's going to be 5 issues. Yes, this is by Eve Ewan with art by Luca Maresca and Ivan Fiorelli. They're your interior artists on this. So Monica Rambeau is back in New York. But before this, she spent a lot of time in New Orleans. That's where her family's from. But she's back in New York, and she's trying to find her place in the Marvel universe now that she is no longer on a team. She's a very powerful character. In the past, she's been on a lot of teams. She's even led teams. Now she's sort of by herself. And the funny thing is, though, in this issue, as she's trying to figure out who she is, by herself off a team, she ends up teaming up with a couple other singular heroes. So there are a few other heroes that she will team up to because a new villain attacks Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum
Mm.
when she happens to be in it. Who is this new villain and what is their unnerving prophecy about Monica? You will have to read that to find out, but it's not good. It doesn't make her feel good at all. Then you get to go into some of her family. There's some family problems going on. So bad that sort of in the end, she decides to go into space. You can kind of see that on the cover. And I think the rest of the series is going to be her going through space because of some family issues. So that's generally what's going on in Monica Rambeau Photon #1. We got some cool variants for you. Here is the Stelfreeze variant. Here is the Darbeau variant. That's not a name I really recognize. So this could be a new variant artist. We might see more of it, Marble. So the last name was Darbeau. And then here is the Peach Momoko variant.
Haven't heard that name. Okay, next up, I've got Superman Son of Kal-El number 18. This is the final issue of Superman Son of Kal-El. Even though it's already been announced, he's got a mini series coming up that's, said to be continued in that series. But how do you wrap up this series? Well, we're kind of we in a previous issue, Mom and Pa Kent's house got destroyed. This is the Justice League coming together to rebuild that house. Batman puts in some security measures, which is really fun. But uh, if you look up first appearances and stuff, a lot of places are saying this is the first full appearance of Red Sin. Now, that's kind of what I talk about this issue. So, I believe he was teased in a previous issue, and uh, there is action in this because Jonathan actually goes up against Red Sin, and I think what will make this kind of a big deal is uh, at one point Jonathan actually comes to his dad, and Superman's basically like, "What was that all about?" And Jonathan's like, "I think I have an arch nemesis now." So could this be setting up Jonathan's actual his Lex Luthor? There's more to more comparisons to those two than just in idea. But what I will say is I don't think the name Red Sin is going to be used after this issue because someone even talking to that character says, "I think we're done with that persona. Let's try something else." So, first appearance of Red Sin, yes, but the character behind the name is, I think, the actual big first appearance that could be Jonathan's his could be longtime arch nemesis because it seems like they're really setting him up to be kind of his Lex Luthor. So that's the big reason to pick this up, and then this is to be continued next year in the mini series going to be doing, and I think that's where they're going to pick up the story of Jonathan and this new enemy. So that is our A cover. We've got quite a few variants for this, being, I guess, since it's the last issue, they did some extra ones. So this is the Ryan Sook Spawn variant. We've got the Jim Lee holiday card variant. We've got the DeMio variant. And we have this really nice Zerdy 1 in 25 variant with Lois Lane. And you also find out why it is this Red Sin character specifically dislike Lois. That she may be the reason that he went bad or is doing the things he's doing. So very cool.
Okay, also out this week, I read the latest issue of Grimm. This is Grimm issue #6. This is the beginning of the second story arc. You can kind of tell because it introduces some new characters. There's like this messenger character who looks like a big biker dude, and he kind of approaches these three weird prophetic sisters. We've heard that in all kinds of literature
Yep.
forever and ever since mythology. But it makes sense in a world like Grimm. And they seem like they're going to be some new antagonists for Jess and her friends. Meanwhile, so Jess and her two allies, they've been exiled from the land of the dead and they're kind of stuck in Las Vegas. So they're at a concert trying to regroup and figure out what their next move is going to be. Um, there's this issue has a lot of prophecy, a lot of fire, and more than that, and a very strange act of self-immolation. So that's some of what's
Weird.
going on in the latest issue of Grimm. It's definitely a okay, new arc. Here's some new characters.
Yeah.
Let's get the ball rolling sort of issue. Again, awesome art by Flaviano. I just always love Flaviano's art in Grimm. So we have a few variants. Here is the Kiona's variant. Here is the Florentino variant. Then there is a 1 in 10 virgin version of that variant we're selling for $10. And there's also a 1 per store version of the main cover that we're selling to our customers for $20.
Okay, my next one is Deadpool #2. Check out that nice homage cover. Some Wolverine action
Yeah.
there. So, Deadpool, I like Deadpool, but he's one of the characters that like you can take too far, too funny, that it's almost like too much text, too much craziness going on.
Remember
Uh,
Bugs Bunny.
yeah, and then you get some more like refined Deadpool, and that's what this is. So I really like this new run. I didn't know what to expect from this, but
Oh,
this
that's funny.
is
He's saying, "What's up, Ock?"
yeah,
This
yeah.
jumped in my head.
So uh, the storyline that was set up in the last one is that Deadpool wants to join this like League of Assassins called the Atelier. And to do this, they've said, okay, to join us, to be considered, you've got to kill Doc Ock. So that's what he did. But on the way, he got stopped by this new character called the Harrower, who infused him with something related, it seems, to Carnage. And Deadpool, at the end of the last issue, sprouted 2 extra arms coming out of his side. So that's where we go. So we have in this Deadpool versus Doc Ock, which is funny. Doc Ock's got the multiple arms.
8
Now
arms,
Deadpool's
4
got the
arms.
multiple arms. Um, so really fun fights, all of that in here. But we soon learn that Deadpool's not the only one trying to get into this league. There is another pretty big Marvel character that is also vying for taking out Doc Ock and getting that place. So you've just got assassins everywhere. All of this really fun. But the big thing is uh, Deadpool learns that, those arms may have a mind of their own, and by doing so, they can pop out wherever they want, and that gets pretty crazy. So, really fun issue of Deadpool. I really like it. If you were on the fence, uh, I say try out issue #2 because I went from the last one being like, oh, the carnage coming out of him, that's kind of weird or whatever, to like, this would be a really cool figure. It's like the 4-arm Deadpool with the 2 scary arms and everything. Really cool. So that is issue #2 of Deadpool.
Sounds like a build a figure.
It does look like a build a figure. We've got the Todd Knock Full Killer variant, which is not a character that has shown up in this series yet. And we have the Peach Momoko variant, which is she does a good Deadpool.
If it was a build a figure, it's like upper left arm,
Yeah.
lower left
Yeah.
arm. Okay, so here's another book out this week. It is Harley Uncovered. This is a one shot. Basically, this is a collection of some of the best Harley Quinn covers of this series, and that includes the variants. And this series has had a lot of good covers. So there's not a lot to read in here because it's mostly covers, but Harley is in it and she is commenting on some of these covers. I wish she commented on all of them because her comments are hilarious. But so she's just sporadically throughout the book talking about the covers and what she likes and what she doesn't. But that is what Harley Uncovered is, and there is no variant for this. No need for variant for this, I
There
guess.
actually was. It was that.
Oh, really?
It was that George Perez homage where he's holding her.
Oh, you're
But I
right.
think
We've run out. It's
ran out.
on
We would
people's
have to.
pull boxes
So be
already.
on the lookout for it because it sounds like it's going to be hard to find.
All right. Well, thank you for the correction. Yeah.
But yeah, that's really cool too because it has some covers you may have not seen in your stores that were store exclusives. Very hard to find.
I opened it to look and just see how much Harley spoke, and I ended up looking through the entire thing.
Yeah, and you realize how many great
it's
variants
nice.
that series has had. Okay, next up I have just briefly going to mention Wildcats #2. I wish I got to read this one in depth a little bit more, but I really enjoyed the first issue. We know we've brought the Talons and the Court of Owls. They've kind of fallen into their snare, but there's also something else in this. It is a if you've been waiting for more Wildstorm characters to show up, if you've got your favorites, you said, oh, you know, Grifter's great, but I miss whoever from a Wildstorm series. They may show up in this one because a new team is revealed under. It sounds weird. A new team is revealed using another team's name. So we'll have to check that out. It sounds really fun going forward. That is Wildcats #2. We've got some great variants for this. So this is the Ben Oliver variant. And then it almost looks like you're zooming out and somebody appeared behind her. This is the Ben Oliver variant with Spawn. So you kind of got like whoop, and there's Spawn behind her. And those are the only two covers I got for that one.
Okay, so now a new comic that's out this week that does not have a variant
Oh.
is They're All Terrible. That's because this is the latest one from Bad Idea. This is written by Matt Kent, who's a writer I like quite a bit, with art by Ramon Villalobos. Look at this cover. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, just what is happening on it's ridiculous, but then the colors they
Yeah.
chose, and it kind of shimmers. Like it's anyway. You just have to see this one in person. This was a really good read. I mean, Matt Kent, most everything he writes, I really, really like. But this is set in a fantasy world, and it's sort of right after a big worldwide war has taken place. Like, think it's like end of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's set at the end of all that, and there's this group of warriors who are like, we did all this fighting for, this war, and the war is done, and everyone's gone back to their lands. We don't have any lands. Like, we've been doing this forever and have no lands of our own. Well, these homeless warriors decide they're going to invade this one peaceful kingdom because this kingdom just has it all and they're untouched and they don't deserve that. Well, the kingdom hears about it and it sends one of our main characters. He kind of has like a battle cat. It looks kind of like Battle Cat from He-Man. They send him out into the world to find the the best heroes he can. They're like, money's no option. Offer him all the money you can because we need them to defend our town. So it's a little bit like Seven Samurai, if any of you have seen the old Kurosawa film, where he's trying to find these heroes. Well, he finds one who gets challenged. You'll have to see how it goes. It's a lot of action, a lot of battle. But as with Matt Kin stuff, it's hard to guess what's going to happen. Like what happened was completely not what I expected, which was much better. It was a much more refreshing. Like, oh, it went that way. And so it looks like the heroes he's going to put together, they're not very heroic people. That's probably why it's called They're All Terrible. So a bit of humor, a lot of really good action, very fast paced. I enjoyed it. So if you go to a store that sells Bad Idea stuff or wherever you buy from, you might want to check this one out.
Is it a one shot?
No,
Okay, this is gonna be a one.
it is. It has several issues to it. I think this is my favorite of the second batch so far, pretty easily. And as with all the Bad Idea stuff, no variant.
Maybe there were, but they were all terrible. Okay, so next up for me, I have. We've got Mandalorian issue #6. So check that out. It is a Patrick Gleason cover. Very cool that seeing him do some Star Wars work. And if you're familiar with the show, of course, this is every issue represents an episode of the first season. This is the one where they go into the prison ship and you meet a lot of characters. So you have a lot of first appearances in here. You have Ran, you have the big one, Mayfield, who is Bill Burr's character, who has made return appearances. So I feel like that's a pretty big one. You have Berg, the Deveronian, Zero, the droid, and Zien, who seems to be like maybe one of Mando's former love interests, and her brother Quinn. And interesting, at the end, if you know the episode, there's some Republic pilots that show up. In the show, it didn't show this pilot, but in this one, it did. It's Carson Teva, who, if you know, is from Kim's Convenience and the big actor. He's been a reoccurring character in there as well. He's actually shown the end of this, so it's Carson Teva's first appearance in this as well. So if you're, you always want to know all the first appearances in a Star Wars comic, that is those. And we also have out this week Bounty Hunters number 29. It's just a fun continuation of the Bounty Hunters storyline, and we get IG-88 in this one as well. We've got some variants for both of those. So we have the photo variant, concept art variant. We have a 1 in 25 Yagawa variant for Mando that we're selling for $25. And for Bounty Hunters, we have this really cool episode 2 20-year anniversary cover with Django facing off against Mace.
Okay, also out this week, I read Wonder Woman issue number 794. So let's look at the cover. We got the milk extra on it, and Wonder Woman is on there as a missing person on the milk. This does not happen in this issue. This is definitely them just playing around, and you see an evil hand holding it. But what I will say is, I feel like this creative team was made a bet or something, where it's like, I bet we can keep writing about this milk thing for like 20 issues. Cannot believe this is still around. This is not a criticism. This is just me. I just can't believe they're still having this milk extra as a major plot component. This has gone through multiple storylines now. So in this, and you'll see why I'm talking about this. What happens when evil gods arise out of the milk? I kid you not. Read the issue; it's in there.
It sounds
Evil
like an
gods
image book or something.
arise out of the milk extra in this one. That's my review. That's all I got.
Mic drop.
Yes. So here are the variants. Here's the Jem Bartel variant.
It's really nice.
Yeah, it is. Here is the Kotzebue holiday variant. Wrong way. I always do that.
Landscape.
And then here is the Chung Spawn variant. Spawn and One Ring hanging out together. It really is. That's one of the standout ones. Just everything's kind of in a circle if you look at what the
draws your eye.
Yeah. And then here is the 1 in 25 weeks variant that we're selling to our customers for $20.
What would Spawn do about that milk? Okay, so
He'd spoil it.
He would spoil it. It turned green. Okay, my last thing is just showing off some really cool covers for the Spawn crossovers are having an image, which there is a lot of them. I grabbed a lot of them. I don't know if I grabbed all of them, but I grabbed some ones that really stuck out to me. So first off, we have this one for Love Everlasting, which is really fun. I love seeing the different styles that Spawn takes in these. We have for Dark Ride number 3. Fits in with that world really well as well. We have the 10,000 Black Feathers number 4. I believe that's a Sorrentino. And we have... Oh, I didn't even notice the name on this changed. Which was Star Hinge, but this one is Spawn Hinge. This is a Liam Sharp cover. So that's all the ones I got.
The last one I want to show off is there is a facsimile out this week of Ultimate Comics All New Spider-Man number 1. This is from 2011. This, of course, is the first solo series with Miles Morales in it. And this particular issue is also his second appearance. So if you didn't get that one, it's a little pricey these days. Here's your chance to pick up a facsimile of it. And
I remember buying that book off the shelf.
What, 2011?
Should have grabbed a couple more.
It's been 11 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah, going on 12. All right. Well, thank you for watching our show. I think we went over about 19 comics this week and all the variants and incentives related to them. There are other comics that are out. We don't get to all of them. So I would like to say there are a few others I should probably mention. Like Radiant Black issue 20 is out this week. Frank Frazetta's Dawn Attack series starts this week. There's Hell to Pay number 2, Legion of X number 8, the origin of Marvel Comics in that Marvel town.
Yeah, a bunch of first issues of major Marvel characters.
Planet Hulk World Breaker number 2, Savage Avengers number 8, and the TMNT Armageddon game, The
Mhm.
Alliance, the miniseries off of that, number 2 is out.
Yeah.
So we review all the ones we think most people want to hear the most about, but I just wanted to mention all that.
Yeah, we kind of show the ones that maybe need a little bit of explanation.
Yeah, otherwise our show would be a 2-hour show. It's already quite long enough.
Yeah.
So anyhow, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. We do appreciate it, and we'll be back this Friday with comics from the future. So have a great day, and we will see you then.